I'm Brooke Baller. I'm a runner, a behavior support practitioner, a dad of 3, and despite what the wand on my desk might suggest, I'm not a wizard. This is On the Run, a podcast where I take one central theme and run it through all the different lenses I see the world through. Fatherhood, clinical practice, culture, shadow work, and the archetypes I've spent years building to help people understand how they actually operate. We're not sprinting toward answers here. We're doing the real work. Some of it's research, some of it's confession, all of it's real. Let's get into it. Welcome back, everybody. Today, I want to talk about pressure. Not the kind that spikes, but the kind that accumulates. The kind that lives with you in the house. Right now, in this season, my 3 kids aren't in organized care. My wife, Jamie, just had our 3rd, and we have almost 0 outside help. So I'm still working. I'm still trying to take care of myself. I'm still trying to help run a household that doesn't have clean edges between any of its roles. And so here's what a day actually looks like for us. I might wake up before the boys, if I'm lucky. It was a day like today. If the stars align, I get 15 minutes on the treadmill before someone's up. 15 minutes. That's my recovery window for the day. Now, some days I don't even get that. All right. Some mornings they're awake before my feet hit the floor. And from that moment on, I'm in it. Now, I've had to pivot almost entirely toward strength training for this window because running just isn't really that accessible in this season, which is fine. I've made peace with it. So I do exercises among the kids, literally among them. So I'll be mid-set and a scuffle breaks out over some stupid toy, and now I'm a mediator. I'm helping 2 boys repair and reorganize in the span of 20 seconds, and then I'm back on the floor trying to finish the set desperately. And then my wife messages me that she needs a coffee. And here's the thing about the coffee machine. As soon as I press that button, the boys know their mom is awake. They know that their baby sister is awake. And so the second that coffee is done, they're following me to the bedroom door, and from that moment, that exact moment, it is full gas. On and off parenting, switching back and forth between work, parenting, with no clean boundary between the two. And that toggle runs until I walk or crawl out of their room at night. And so when I tell you that the evening feels like the most intense part of the day, it's not really because the evening is objectively harder than any other part. It's because I've already been doing it since sunrise on 5 to 6 hours of sleep, with 6 being a really good night. And all I can say is thank God for creatine. By the time we hit the bedtime routine, the smallest of charges coming up from the ground is enough to connect with the electricity in the sky and create a lightning bolt. And that's not a metaphor for drama. That's a description of what happens to a nervous system that's been absorbing pressure all day with almost nowhere to put it. So let me overlay something that I've been quietly developing since December of last year in 2025. It's something called the Barometric Behaviour Model, and I'll apply it to what I've just described a bit earlier. If you caught episode 1, you may have heard me do some references in there too. And I'll do a proper standalone deep dive on the BBM, as I call it, down the track. But for now, just know that it's a framework that I built as an alternative to things like stress thermometers and escalation curves, because those tools consistently fail the people I work with. And the BBM reads pressure states instead of escalation stages or temperature. And to me, the difference is everything. So when I wake up, before the boys and I get those 15 to 30 minutes on the treadmill, I'm in what I call clear sky. I've got capacity, I'm flexible, I can think creatively, and if you asked me to problem solve something in that window, I could do it with patience and curiosity. By mid-morning, after that coffee machine has fired and the day has properly started, I'm starting to toggle in and out of what I call gathering pressure. The signs are very subtle, so I'm maybe a little shorter in my responses. I'm less creative with solutions. My thinking narrows. I stop improvising and I start defaulting to just do what I've asked. And every interruption deposits just a little bit more pressure into a system that hasn't had time to discharge since the treadmill. Or even worse, if I didn't even have that time, it's all the more intense. And the thing about this season is that the gathering pressure phase just doesn't resolve in the day. It just keeps running. There's no midday break where I reset. The pressure just accumulates across the entire day like cloud cover that never clears. And by evening, I'm just operating on fumes. And for all the parents out there, you know exactly what I mean. So when someone melts down, one of the kids melts down at bath time, and someone always melts down at bath time, I just don't have the regulatory capacity to absorb it. So I might snap, I might raise my voice, and that right there is breaking point. That's the third pressure state. Not because the behavior in front of me is extreme, but because my system has been thinning all day, and this was just the moment it finally gave. It's the straw that broke the camel's back. Now, a thermometer would tell you that I went from green to red at bath time. Meanwhile, the BBM tells you that I'd been gathering pressure since sunrise with almost no discharge, and the bath was just where the system finally broke. Now, those are two completely different stories, and they lead to two completely different responses. If you think the problem is bath time, you try to fix bath time, right? If you understand that the problem is a full day of accumulated pressure with no recovery windows, you start engineering discharge into the day itself. And you start thinking about where a break could live, even a small one, even 15 minutes on the treadmill, even my wife seeing that I need 10 minutes on the couch while she reads the boys some stories before I take over and inevitably fall asleep in their bed. I encourage you, stop reading the behavior, start reading the pressure of the room, of the relationship, of the household. Because the behavior will always mislead you if you don't understand the conditions that produced it. All right, time to pull a card out. If you're new here, I've developed something called the Personalised Behavioral Insight Report, or the PBIR. It's a framework built on 25 archetypes that help describe how someone sees the world, moves through it, and what conditions they need to thrive. And each core archetype has its own signature, its own pressure profile, its own way of breaking down and rebuilding. And I'll link a free resource that I've developed in the description if you want to explore the full library and the concept even further. And again, just like the BBM, I'll be doing standalone deep dives on individual archetypes and the framework as a whole as this podcast series goes on. So today's archetype is the Flamekeeper. And I'm reviewing this one because it's very close to my heart. My middle child, who we will call Puds for confidentiality purposes, is the living, breathing, all gas, no brakes embodiment of it. The Flamekeeper, simply put, is pure fire. This is the kid who runs before they walk, who feels everything at full volume, and who doesn't have a dimmer switch, only an on and an off. When a Flamekeeper is thriving, that fire is extraordinary. They light up a room, they pull people into their orbit with sheer force of energy, and Puds does this every single day. He is magnetic, he's passionate, and alive in a way that makes you remember what enthusiasm actually feels like. The challenge, though, starts when pressure enters the system. Because a Flamekeeper doesn't respond to pressure by withdrawing or shutting down. They externalize. The anxiety has to go somewhere. And for a Flamekeeper, it goes outward. Louder, faster, more intense. And PUDS is a quintessential externalizer. And when shit hits the fan, you know it. He's not choosing to escalate. That's a very important distinction. He is not choosing to escalate. At the end of the day, he's 2 years old. Instead, the fire in him is looking for an exit, and the only exit it knows is through the walls. Now, here's where people get it wrong most of the time. When you see a Flamekeeper externalizing, running, yelling, throwing, pushing, the instinct is to contain it, to try and contain the fire, to control it, to put a lid on it, to, and that makes total sense, right? Like, the house is burning, so go and grab an extinguisher. Except, problem is, with a Flamekeeper, control is accelerant. It's fuel. You try to clamp down on PUDS when he's in gathering pressure, and his fire doesn't shrink. It doubles. It exponentially increases. Because now you've added a new pressure source on top of the one that was already building. Okay, it's like two storm fronts, that come together into like a tornado. Because he's dealing with whatever activated his anxiety, plus now he's dealing with someone restricting his movement, his autonomy, his ability to discharge. That's like heat trapped before a storm. And the result is almost always explosive. Not because the child is defiant, but because the intervention was wrong for the architecture. So what does a Flamekeeper actually need under pressure? Movement. Space to burn through it. An environment that matches the intensity and gives it somewhere constructive to go. Now, again, you don't contain fire. You give it a fire break. You give it room to move through the landscape without taking the whole forest down. For PUDS, that looks like running laps in the backyard, roughhousing, throwing his body around the lounge room. And the stillness comes after. The breathing comes after. The conversation comes after. You earn the calm by honoring the fire first. So, switching gears here, my boys love bass, just like their dad. They love dubstep. So when I put on Skrillex or any heavy electronic music, they lose their minds in the best way possible. It makes me such a proud dad. And they're jumping, spinning, throwing themselves into the couch. I'm throwing themselves into the couch, vibrating with those low-end frequencies that rattle through their little bodies. And for a long time, I didn't think about why it worked. I just knew that when the house was chaotic and everyone was wired, and just simply putting on some heavy bass music and letting them move to it shifted something, as it has shifted in me before, right? And the energy in the room would change. Not immediately. It wasn't like a switch, but maybe over a song or two, or after, one build up to a bass drop, the frenzy would start to sort of organize itself, like atoms becoming magnetic. The movement would become rhythmic instead of scattered. The screaming would turn into laughter, albeit sometimes maniacal laughter. Something was happening in their bodies that their conscious minds just didn't need to understand. Now, Dr. Dan Siegel talks about this concept he has in his book, The Whole Brain Child, which I wholeheartedly recommend, and I'll link in the description. He has this idea called move it or lose it. He also talks about this other idea called name it to tame it. And for a lot of kids, that's where people start. You label the feeling, you talk about the feeling, you rationalize the feeling. And my boys can do that, especially my oldest. They do deep breathing. They're capable of stillness. Those strategies absolutely work. However, the sequencing is the insight, though. For my boys, the naming doesn't land until the body has had its say. So you have to move it first and name it second. You release, then you regulate. The bass and the dubstep aren't replacing the breathing. They're helping to earn it. They're giving the nervous system something physical and rhythmic and primal to organize around so that when the movement passes, the body is actually ready to receive the stillness. And low-end frequencies are quite literally grounding. You feel them in your chest, your gut, your bones. They vibrate through the body at a frequency you can't ignore. And that gives a dysregulated nervous system something concrete to latch onto. Sensory input that demands nothing from the thinking brain. You don't really have to understand it. You just feel it. And that's something I understood very quickly after going to my first ever electronic music festival. And the other thing I've noticed myself doing, and this one caught me a bit off guard, is syncopating my breathing with their movement. So when they're in it, jumping and spinning with the bass thumping, I'm in there with them because this is also how I regulate. I'm not standing on the sidelines telling them to calm down. I'm matching their energy. I'm moving with them. And then gradually, I start to slow my breathing. I start to lengthen my exhales, drop my shoulders, and all of a sudden we're co-regulating in real time through rhythm and proximity, not through instruction. So co-regulation doesn't work from a distance. It's relational. You have to be in the rhythm with someone before you can shift it. You have to meet the tempo before you can bring it down. And dubstep sounds like chaos to a lot of people, so no judgment if it's not your thing. But what's underneath it is rhythmically precise. The drops are predictable. The bass patterns repeat. There's architecture under the mayhem. And I think that's why it works for my boys, especially Puds. The Flamekeeper doesn't need you to remove their intensity because you can't. And you wouldn't want to in the first place. He simply needs the intensity to have a structure that he can ride like a wave. And so I want to close with how the day actually ends in my house, because the ending is where this barometric behavior model lives or dies. So even on the worst evenings, even when I've been frustrated and raising my voice and running on nothing, we always land in the same place. Teeth get brushed, and from that moment, the bedtime routine becomes this reorganization ritual that I didn't design clinically. It just emerged. So all three of us get into bed. Puds has his milk. Moo, who you might remember from last episode, is my oldest boy. He lays beside me. And Moo and myself work through our parts of the day. So we do sad parts, happy parts, scared parts, and curious parts. It's our recap of the day. Our shared reflection on what the day held and how it felt. And that's the fourth pressure state, reorganization. And this specifically is reorganization through language and emotional processing. That's the name it to tame it piece from earlier. And that's happening exactly where it belongs, after the pressure has moved through, not during it. So then I rock Puds. My 15-kilo 2-year-old cradled like a baby in my arms to the beat of a song that used to be We Will Rock You, but instead was changed to "We Will Rockabye Puds" because, again, his nickname is Puds in real life. And I had the whole thing tailored to his personality, how messy he is, how much he falls and stumbles during the day. And yeah, it's the whole thing. And then his older brother one night just randomly started telling him that he couldn't have this stuffed gingerbread man named Gingy. And the name, unfortunately, got stuck in the song. And so now, instead of singing this incredibly well-crafted and well-written song by yours truly, we've now been doing this ridiculous Gingy version for months. And so I'm like throwing him in the air and rocking him and singing this ridiculous song, and his body eventually settles into the rhythm of it. He's now like anticipating the little, ad libs that I do during it and everything else. And all of this is this shared movement regulation. The Flamekeeper's fire finding its resting place for the day. Two kids, two completely different reorganization pathways. So Moo, he gets language and reflection, and Puds gets rhythm and physical co-regulation. Same phase of the model, same need for repair and reconnection, but completely different architecture. And that's what the PBIR is really about. Understanding that one size has never fit all. And the better you know someone's architecture, the better you can meet them where they actually are. So when I walk out of their room in a daze, honestly, I sit on the couch and pretty much just stare at the wall for about at least 10 minutes while my brain slowly re-enters reality. And that's my reorganization. The shame is there. Did I handle any of it well enough? And the exhaustion is real. The slow return is something, resembling a person who can think is real. And what I know, though, what gets me through even the worst evenings is that no matter how rough the weather was during the day, or even right in the lead up to going to sleep, we ended the day the same way. Sad parts, happy parts, scared parts, curious parts, and we rock Gingy. A song and a hold. They know that I love them because I tell them as much as I possibly can every single day. They know that I showed up for every single transition, even the ones where I lost my patience, because at the end of the day, I was still there to repair it. Look, sometimes the weather gets the better of us. You can't always control that. But what you can do is read the conditions. You can respond with whatever you've got left in the tank. And when the storm passes, and believe me, it always passes, you can lie in the dark with your kids and let the reorganization do what it needs to do. Thanks for running this one with me. If something landed with you, please share it with someone who needs to hear it. And if you want to go deeper into any of the frameworks, the PBIR, the Barometric Behaviour Model, links are in the description. And standalone deep dives are coming very, very soon, so stay close. I'm Brooke Baller. This has been On the Run. Stay bemused, stay curious, and I'll see you in the next one.